After the decision to rescind DACA was met with an immediate backlash, this tweet came out of the White House last night. Congress now has 6 months to legalize DACA, something the Obama administration was unable to do. And if they can't, I will revisit this issue. So, of course, he got in his thanks Obama thing. I don't know why he is obsessed with Obama. Obama's not the president, but that's neither here nor there. But does this mean he's rethinking his decision to end DACA? What's happening?
No. He wants both. He wants to look like a compassionate person, that he cares. I love the Dreamers. You heard that.
Right.
And then he has to appeal to his base that wants the Dreamers out of here. So he doesn't know which way to go. That's his problem.
But his base actually...
He only lives to be adored by his base.
But
that's what he loves.
But don't you want someone that is a person of conviction? Because in 2011 on Fox and Friends, he really, I think he compassionately defended the Dreamers, right? He said, you have people in this country for 20 years. They've done a great job. They've done wonderfully. They've gone to school. Now we're supposed to send them out of the country. So is that his real position, or is his real position?
That was before Bannon got a hold of him.
I don't think he really understood what he was saying when he first sent it out. I don't think he understood there was deportation involved, that they would be eligible to be deported. Like, I don't know. I think there was a complexity to this that he didn't grasp, and I think that's why he came out later. Because it's the first time I've sensed a little genuine quality.
With this new tweet.
Well, not with the tweet. His tweets never seem like that's not where I'm speaking. But when you hear him talk, when he speaks of DACA, it's some of the few times I've heard him sound like he cares, and I believed him.
Oh, don't believe it.
Yeah. No, Joy, I'm as critical as the next person. Is the first time I've actually seen him say, like, I don't think he understands, and I think he has the wrong people in his ear. So what's happening is I think he's listening to the wrong people, and if he got some immigration scholars, people that understand the complexities, and stopped with the Steve Bannon and Steve Bannon and Stephen Miller, he's got to change who he's listening to.
I think he actually supports keeping what's in place right now. I think what he's saying is this was a temporary structure. President Obama did admit as well, this is a temporary structure.
Yes, we said that
President doesn't have the authority to make this type of policy. And I think he's saying, Congress, go handle this as you were supposed to do a long time ago. But he also has state attorneys general, several of them, I think it's 10 of them, suing and saying, this is not constitutional. This needs to be fixed by Congress. We are going to sue you. You have Jeff Sessions heading the Justice Department coming out and saying, we're not going to defend it. So
but then why not put Congress's feet to the fire?
He is. That's what I think.
No. So if he had come out himself and said, listen, Congress, this is what I need done, and this is why I need it done, because these guys are doing this and this and this. It's your job to do this. Instead, you send out Jeff Sessions, who it's just like, come on.
But the tweet says, I mean, should he be tweeting this? No, but it says Congress now has 6 months. There's a 6-month period to legalize DACA, which, by the way, was absurd because he's telling them what to do. So all the negotiating power of the people in Congress who wanted border security thrown in or something thrown in, he just undermined. But that's a separate point.
But to the point that he cares about immigrants, last week, he pardoned an immigrant hater basher, Sheriff Arpaio.
Yeah.
So don't tell me that the only immigrants he loves are the ones he can marry, if you want my opinion.
Well,
Oh, I'm sorry. That went too far, I guess.
Listen, I think he's hiding behind this notion of legality. I think he's hiding behind the notion that he wants Congress to make it legal. President Obama came out yesterday, and we haven't heard a lot from 44, unfortunately, but what we did hear yesterday, he said, my administration acted to lift the shadow of deportation from these young people. We did so based on the well-established legal principle of prosecutorial discretion. He said the action taken today isn't required legally, it's a political decision and a moral question. That's what we heard from President Obama.
Yes.
So that's what the issue is.
But President Obama put that into place knowing and
he's
admitting
not, but he's not the president anymore. So let's get the guy who's supposed to be doing the job to decide what's going to happen.
But
he has no balls.
I agree with you. Trump is saying
he has no balls. I'm sorry, because for me, when if you're gonna do this, I mean, I'm getting tired of him throwing Obama in every time. Obama's not the president. Ms. Clinton didn't become the president. That's your job. So it's your job not to tweet it, but come out and say, hey, not to say, you know, last week, well, I'll think about it. Maybe I'll tell you on Thursday. No, I'm going to tell you on Monday. No, I'm going to tell you on Tuesday. Don't do that. Tell us what you want, and then tell Congress what they need to do.
I read this as him doing exactly that. If
No,
he
that's
had stepped
him
up and
hiding
said
behind Twitter and
unilaterally,
stuff.
if Trump
I'm
had
just
stepped up
campaigning.
unilaterally and said, this is what I'm doing on immigration, everyone would be saying, this is an imperial president. He's overstepping separation of powers. What he's saying is, this was temporary. It's still temporary. I'm rescinding it. I'm putting
Why
pressure
bring
on
it up in
Congress
the middle
to do
of
their
two
job.
hurricanes?
But
Is
why
what we'd
send,
like to know.
Also, why
Yes.
send
Because he's getting sued. Because he's getting sued by 10 state attorneys
But
general.
may I point out that two of those attorney generals, one is in Texas, one is in Louisiana, and their states are about to be underwater.
Yeah.
So realistically, if you know you're in the middle of not just two hurricanes, but who knows what else is coming through, you know, you might not want to put this kind of tension on people who are trying to figure out, okay, my
Especially
house
people
is
close to
underwater
the
and
border.
we're just, you know.
Use it. Come out and shame them. Come out in public and say, these are the 9 attorney generals from these states that are pressuring me. Anyone can get on board on me putting this off for a while. We've got bigger problems here where we need to get all hands on deck. But I think if he had done something like that, everyone could say, you're right.
That's a good
But
point.
the problem
Yeah.
is also that you have internal pressure of wanting a border security bill, of wanting this immigration problem. You've had people on the left and right for years talking about, we need to solve this immigration problem. We need
But
comprehensive
we didn't see
immigration
these hurricanes
reform.
coming. Like, these are coming right
didn't.
now.
But if
Also,
you're
may
the
I
president of the United
put
States
in,
and you
may
get
I
sued
put in,
and
may,
all these issues, you say,
may I
okay,
He's used to being
may I
sued,
put
Jen.
in,
He's used to being sued.
He's just saying, Congress, do
Sued
your
all the
job.
time.
he can say that, and it would be great if they did their job, but you know, Congress has had a long time to take care of this,
Agreed.
and they didn't do it.
I agree.
Okay? They made the choice not to do it because they wanted it to become like this. This is what they wanted. So now, Congress, it's in your court.
Good job.
I don't know how long you're going to be in office, but you know, because people are watching. They're watching how you're dealing with stuff. So, you know, the people will speak, but you better do something soon,
But
honey.
aren't there several bills in front of Congress right now that are capable of doing this job? that's
Yes,
taking care of it?
they could have done this
Exactly.
ages ago.
So they don't
and
even
they
need 6
chose
months.
not to.
Yes.
They chose not to because, of course, anything that Obama did, you know, we're going to make him a one-term president. We're not going to give him any help.
But doesn't there seem to be some kind of a movement to keep people who will vote against them out of the country? I mean, this is a group of people, probably Democrats. They don't want them here. They don't want anybody
You
here who's
have
not
the
going to vote for
majority
them.
of people.
We'll be right back.
Later, Clear History? The classic film getting pulled from a theater for its racial content. Is this a good riddance or straight up censorship? The View is back. Taking on the hottest topics happening now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
The ladies, the politics, the hot topics. Serving you View strong.
Season 21.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there's only one. Still ahead, a View exclusive. White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders and her dad, Mike Huckabee, are both hitting the Hot Topics table live.
So welcome back. You know, the backlash over shameful eras of American history has spread into movie theaters. Gone with the Wind is being pulled from a series of classic movies in Memphis, Tennessee, for its portrayal of slavery. Now, this movie won 10 Oscars, including the first one for a black woman, Hattie McDaniel. Now, should it be pulled? It's a great movie. It's a depiction of a time and an era, and it's a piece of art.
Absolutely not.
No.
It's not exactly accurate, but it is one woman's and Margaret Mitchell's vision. It's a novel, for God's sakes. It's a fictionalized sort of
It captures
dramatization.
a time. It's someone's expression of what they experienced or a story to tell. You can't rewrite those
The
things.
slaves are the only nice people in the movie, if you think about it.
Well,
The rest of them are so mean, every one of them.
Or there's that.
I think I can see both sides of the argument. I mean, you know, as a lawyer, I know that that's classic censorship. You know, you're going to take books out of schools and movies out of movie theaters. But I do wonder, how is that different from all the Confederate flags that are being
will
taken
tell you-
and the
I'll tell you
statues
how
that are being
it's
removed?
different. Let's talk about the Confederacy and all these monuments.
Yeah.
Now, the Confederacy was basically a treasonous group, okay? And those monuments, which went up, I just want to tell you, the first began around 1900, lasted into the 20s. The second spike in these things began in the early 50s and lasted through the 60s as the civil rights movement led to a backlash among segregationists.
Absolutely.
These monuments were put up to say, basically, hey, you know, we miss those good old days when we owned you.
They were used
and we
as
fought.
intimidation.
They were, yes.
Back
And
off.
so
Yeah.
those, for people who live amongst them, I think it's uncomfortable for folks, and folks said, hey. Now, there was a pair of them at Gettysburg, where they should be, both the North and the South. But when you put stuff up like that to remind me that you own me, I'm kind of annoyed. But listen, I don't want out of
Huckleberry.
Huck Finn,
Yeah.
you know, because that's how people spoke. I don't want those things changed. But if you want to put up monuments to the Confederacy, make a museum.
Yeah.
Make a museum. I don't mind that.
You don't mind that?
I don't mind that. But I don't want to go to the park necessarily.
or a courthouse
because
to see it.
And you know what's also not there? There are no monuments to the slaves.
Right.
You know? There are no monuments to them. And it would be, if you walked in a park in Germany, you know what you don't see?
Goebbels.
You don't see monuments to Hitler.
Yeah.
Right.
And you don't see, because the Germans said, listen, we're not going to celebrate this time. We're not going to celebrate this. This was not a good time.
But putting Gone with the Wind, and again,
Well, that's
I'm
wrong.
struggling
That's
with
wrong.
this because
Well-
putting Gone with the Wind in the movie theaters now, in our current climate, isn't that then also perhaps celebrating that era?
It's different than
No,
driving
it's
by a
not
monument on your way to work every day. Like, to me, art is something you choose. You
yeah.
read books, you listen to music, you go to movies, you experience a time. A monument is in your face, and it was chosen for
and
you.
the flag.
And every day you go by, it memorializes a negative time.
And it makes you feel
put those in
uncomfortable.
museums. It makes
Imagine,
you- yeah.
as a black person walking through Richmond, Virginia, I believe there are tons of statues there from the Confederacy, and you're a black person living there, you feel uncomfortable.
And it's terrifying
You want
when
to feel uncomfortable? I mean, go to a museum and feel uncomfortable. You want to feel upset? Go to a Holocaust museum. Very difficult to be in those places.
one thing that does-
But you learn something there. You're not just walking through the streets being intimidated.
One thing that does bother me, though, is that some of the monuments, and I understand the argument you're making, and I think it's a valid point, and I think local communities need to deal with, the people need to speak out and say how they feel, and local communities need to deal with that. But when you see some of the monuments being defaced, that's a struggle for me, because that's people violently kind of having a reaction that's not how you go about it, in other words. And also what happens is some of these monuments are offensive, but it bleeds out to other monuments, like Georgia, the Peace Monument, which was dedicated to post-war efforts to bring together the North and the South, was defaced. People start to look at everything as, this is offensive and this bothers me. You can't just walk out. If I see something that hurts me or that makes me feel uncomfortable, I can't go out and just slash
But
it.
there's no statue
There's a way to go
of-
about
Jebediah,
that.
there is
It
no...
should be removed. Should
I
they
think
be
local
removed?
communities and people in those local communities should make
that's
that
what they're-
decision.
that's
But
what's happening.
everybody in history...
Well, do I love that
everybody
they're
in
there? No,
history...
personally, no.
Everyone in history is flawed, if you think about it.
True.
Yes.
Even Abraham Lincoln, probably.
Yes.
You know? But flawed is different from treason.
Yes.
You don't have
Very
a statue
different
of
from
Benedict
treason.
Arnold anyplace, you'll
No,
notice.
you don't.
It's the same
Well,
idea.
it is. Well, it is. It's like,
treasonous.
and I don't want to walk past any more things that are mourning the fact that you don't own me.
Yeah.
You don't
That's what I'm
own me.
saying.
We'll be right back.
Does this woman have the toughest job in America?
You guys keep asking the same questions. I guess it's only fair that I keep giving the same answers.
And does her father ever worry about what she got herself into? White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders and her dad, Mike Huckabee, are live on The View next.
Explosive relationship with the media, so this woman has work cut out for her every day. Every day. Please welcome, in their first joint interview, Press White House Secretary Sarah Sanders.
Thank you.
And her dad, former Governor Mike Huckabee. Now, Mike, give him a hand. We're going to talk to you about your show, but we want to talk to Sarah first. So hang tight.
Ladies first.
Okay. Because, you know, I don't want to have to come over there now. So you're not only, you're only the third woman to serve as the White House press secretary, and you're also the first mom the first mother to hold the job. So when you get those calls, uh-oh, he's tweeting, and it's 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
How do you do everything with the kids and trying to do your job? And
Well, I'm already up. As a parent, you're up, 24/7 a day. So it's an easy
how old are your
transition.
children, I should ask?
5, almost 4, and 2. So,
You are.
They're itty bitty.
yeah, little babies.
Right.
So they perfectly have prepared me to deal with the White House press corps. I'm used to answering. I get to answer the same.
president.
I get to answer
Come
the
on now.
same
Come on
question
now.
all day long, and I've gotten pretty good at saying no. So I think my kids have been a perfect foundation.
You know what you say
for
all
my
the
job.
time? You always say, "I'll get back to you." But what is that about? Why do you keep saying, "I'll get back to you"?
Well, I mean, and a lot of times I get back to the individual reporter. It may not be on camera, but I have reporters in and out of my office all throughout the day. Also, as you know, most of us live with a device in our hand, and so I'm in contact with them 24 hours, 7 days a week, constantly responding to different questions. And so a lot of that may not be done in the briefing room, but it's done at another time throughout the day.
I have to say, Sarah, that I'm surprised you. Who approved you coming here? The mooch? I mean, is that why he was fired? I'm shocked that you're here, both of you, even though you were my favorite Republican. Back in the day.
She actually whispered to me before we started that I'm now her favorite Republican.
Yeah, right.
So I think
It works. It's still in the family. But Sarah, you ran your father's presidential campaign last year. Did he give you any advice when you got this job offer?
it's the same advice that he's given me in any job I've ever had, and that's to always be honest and always be myself. And if you kind of live by those two things, you really don't have to worry about too much else. I try to go into every day with that in mind and never veer from that. And so far, it's, I think, served me pretty well.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, let me talk to you, Mike, because, yes, you are my favorite Republican. And so that's why, you know, Trump, the things that he says about women are just horrendous. And we all know that, so let's not pretend that he hasn't said some horrifying things about women. Okay? We know that. Just nod. You don't have to say anything, just nod, because you know it's true.
Blink.
Having said that, how can you let your daughter defend him?
Well, he's also empowered a lot of women. I mean, he's given my daughter an incredible opportunity.
Anecdotal.
No, look at the women that he has hired, not only in the White House, but also the women that he's hired in the private sector. First ever to give a woman the opportunity to be a contractor on a huge Manhattan job. I mean, you know, when people say, oh, he's this, but look at his history. You know, if people say, oh, he's a racist, well, he's been on this show many times.
Yes,
Did you ever
and
call
I've
him
said
one?
it to him to his face.
Well, but Whoopi, he's not a racist.
But you're saying he does have a history, Governor, of with his father precluding people of color from living in his buildings. I mean, it's a well-documented history
it's
of
there,
racism.
Mike.
How can you sit here and say he's not a
I know, too,
racist?
that he is the guy that opened up Mar-a-Lago to Jewish people when they have been shut out.
He didn't want black people there?
No. He has also hired African Americans to work in his organization, to empower them in many ways. Look, is Donald Trump a perfect man? No, but I don't know who we could afford to put in that job. But I also do feel like that I know him well enough. And if I didn't have some confidence in his integrity, I would never encourage my daughter.
But he
to
says
work for
nicer
him.
things about neo-Nazis than he does about President Obama.
That's not true.
No, that's not true.
Yes, it is true.
That's cherry-picking
true.
statements and making them into something they're not. You often hear the line that personnel is policy. You pointed out yourself that I'm the first working mother to ever hold this job, to be empowered to be the spokesperson for the United States of America through the president. That is a big deal. That is a huge step forward. And instead of liberals celebrating it, they've attacked me at every step, and that's a problem
Can we
in
do
itself.
something? There are liberals at the table, so nobody's attacking. So
No,
let's,
I'm not
let's
saying-
get rid of
Can I
that.
ask you though,
But-
just as a, because not as a politician, not as someone who's in the political sphere, I agree with you that I think Donald Trump has, in business, empowered a lot of women to succeed. I'm glad he gave you this job. I think you're great at this job. But personally, as a person, as a woman, as just a person out there, have you struggled with some of the stuff that he has said, and has that made it harder for you to defend? Maybe his policy is okay, but the person, the man behind the presidency, is it hard for you sometimes?
I've spent a lot of time with the president. I've never felt anything but respected and empowered empowered to do exactly what I'm there to do every day, and that is my job. And, you know, I think he's an equal opportunity president. He hits men just as hard. Women want equal opportunity, and this president certainly gives it to them. One, by empowering them to take on senior level positions, not just in the White House, but as a businessman, he did that. You see that by the time, and he doesn't just put milquetoast women around him. He puts strong, very outspoken women in very powerful positions. And the first time in history, we also have a female communications director. You've never had a female press secretary and a female communications director ever in the history of the White House, and we do in this one. And so I think that there are some things that he's really done to empower women, to push that agenda forward, and I think that's something that we should look at and
I don't
recognize.
understand how the evangelicals can support him. You're a religious person. Some of the things that have come out of his mouth are so against the Bible and so unreligious of him. How can you support someone like that?
Well, I think it's not that difficult because, well, nobody voted for him to be their Sunday school teacher. Okay?
Yeah,
and I think the point is, he is a defender of religious liberty, which means he doesn't have to embrace everything that I personally embrace in order to believe that people of faith should be respected and that they should not be relegated to, you know, a portion of the
culture. With all due respect, though, let me just say, character does matter, and many of us argued that when it came to Bill Clinton, his character mattered, and that doesn't mean anything different for Donald Trump. But the character behind the presidency does matter.
But I do think that there is a character there that does come out in his defense of religious liberty, in his embrace of people who are evangelicals. You know, look, I'm very pro-life. You guys all know that. We've talked about that on this show before. For me, that is an important issue because it says that the most important way you look at another human being is with respect for their intrinsic worth and value. And I believe Donald Trump does, in fact, look at people with intrinsic worth and value. I really do.
Oh, man.
There we are. We'll be right back.
Here we go.
Sarah Sanders and Mike Huckabee. We're coming to you, Mike, but hold up.
No, the president has said he's at war with the fake news media. We can agree that this hostile dynamic doesn't serve the American people. We've heard what he and the administration feel the media should be doing or what they're doing wrong, but what do you think is on the responsibility of the administration and people like yourself to help on your end to mend these fences?
Yeah, I think going back, you look at every administration, you're always going to have a little bit of friction between the press corps and the White House. We've certainly seen that escalate in this administration. I think that there is certainly responsibility on both sides. We have to be forthcoming. We have to be honest. That's our obligation to the American people. But it's also journalist obligation to present facts, not opinions. It's the American people's ability to get to take those facts and decide where they want to come down on an issue. To me, a good news story is if all the facts are presented and you don't know which side the author of that story is on. Right. And I think we need to get back to a little bit less editorial comments from the media and a little bit more fact delivering to the American people.
But my clarification here is that when he refers to the media, that's a massive group of people. Technically, we're media, there are journalists. I feel that by specifying when there's something wrong, I think that is a responsibility of the administration, because the problem is you have an American people that are now distrusting, because this has been a consistent talking point of his and the administration's. It's dangerous because the media is here for a purpose. It has a very important historical role. And when people that don't know the difference in these mediums are sitting out there going, oh, medium, fake news, you are kind of taking away a check and balance of society.
It's also very dangerous for the media not to live up to the responsibility that they have, and that is to actually present factual information.
But I mean, a lot of times I sit in a room. When one person does it, I think you need to say, we read this article, and that is problematic, because there are like thousands of us, and we can only do our part individually. So when you call out all of us each time, we take the fall for when we do backup research and we do present information, you're making us all take that fall.
Well, and I think that goes both ways. I mean, the media often characterizes all Republicans, all conservatives, all Democrats. I think that happens certainly on both sides when you take those generalities, and that certainly, I think, is a give and take, not just from the administration, but also from the news media.
Is the media supposed to not report on the fact that 95% of what he says is a lie?
Well, that's... The problem with that, Joy, is that is you are doing exactly what we're talking about and pushing a false narrative.
No, it's not.
95% of what the president says is not a lie.
It's from PolitiFact, from Politico. It's not just the dreaded New York Times. It is other outlets that say it. 5% of his statements are true. 5%.
That's just it.
And I feel for you. I feel sorry for you that you have to go out and defend those lies every day.
And that has been documented. And so as the face of really the administration, what do you say to the American people when you have a boss that engages in untruths?
Well, I completely disagree with the fact that what you're saying is only 5% of that is true. I know that is simply not accurate, and I think that's one of the dangers that we have right now is we are pushing so many false narratives every day. We're creating false perceptions about the president and, frankly, inhibiting his ability to succeed. I think America should want him to succeed. He is the president whether they voted for him or not, and I think that we have to get behind
Yes,
we should be championing for his success because
exactly
his success is America's success, and that's what we should all want.
But you also have to get somebody in the office who recognizes what the truth is. And that, I mean, because, and I will take you just to one point that we can all agree on. Where was President Obama born, and is he an American citizen?
I think this has been pretty well addressed.
Well, but this narrative, this is what I'm talking about. That's a narrative that went on forever and really didn't clear it up until after he was in office. So there are those things that we could go back and forth with, but I think it would be helpful if he, would stick to whatever he's just, like last night he tweeted one thing and then he said something else the next morning, and it's like, come on, man. You know, it's a lie. It's a lie.
I don't think what happened yesterday, I disagree that was inconsistent messaging. The point of yesterday, you've got a very intense legal battle, and the timeline was not set by Donald Trump. It was set by the courts. A decision was forced to be made yesterday.
With DACA.
With DACA. You have one of two choices. You can either let the courts decide, which means the program can end immediately, which I think the entire country has agreed that that's not a good thing, including the president, or you can take 6 months and you can force Congress to actually do their jobs. A lot of people are protesting Trump Tower. I think they should go protest the United States Capitol, because those are the people that have the ability to actually make laws,
and if he had
they need to step up and do their job.
If he had come out and not sent Jeff Sessions out, if he had come out, stood with you, stood next to you and said, this is just my opinion. If he had stood next to you and said, listen, Congress, you didn't act when you could have acted 4 years ago, 8 years ago. Now I'm demanding that you act. If he had stood with you and said that, I'd feel better. But Jeff Sessions didn't say, he didn't do it for me.
The first step was Jeff Sessions making the legal argument. When President Obama made this decision in 2012, he sent Janet Napolitano. He didn't go out himself, because that's the first step in the process. He sent the administrator that is responsible for carrying out that duty. That was Jeff Sessions' responsibility. The president put out a very lengthy statement. He'll be out publicly speaking today. There is a process that we're going through, and right now, the part of the process that we're in is for Congress. They've been on a 3-week vacation. They should be well rested. They should be ready. They should feel ready to come back and actually get something done.
Mike, you know, both the president and the vice president, I think, visited Texas to see the flooding and the devastation. And this was the first time I think we saw President Trump in that consoler-in-chief role. And many people felt better about that. The country has been so divided, and now we see more closeness. We see Americans being great. However, on the same day when this devastation is set to strike Texas, he pardons Arizona Sheriff Joe Arpaio. He says he pardons him on that day to get better ratings, since people would be watching hurricane coverage. Now, as a former governor, would you have chosen that particular moment to pardon arguably one of the most racist and racially profiling officials in our country?
I know Joe Arpaio. I do not agree that he's
That
a
he is
racist.
a racist?
No, I do not agree.
He's lawless, though.
I don't.
Okay.
He's an 85-year-old
one on
man,
TV.
and he has been a sheriff, and he has enforced the law in his county. But I think to your first point, which I hope
Several
that we
judges
can
disagree.
emphasize. Listen, we're living in a country where everybody disagrees, okay?
Fair.
I can't hardly find agreement within my own family sometimes.
Fair.
It's so divided and
Fair.
polarized. But what you also mentioned was this was a president who not only did the important job of standing up federal resources to assist in Texas, but then he got criticized for not showing enough empathy. He goes back, he hugs people, and then people are saying, we got to find something to hate this guy for. I mean, I'm just telling you, the man could,
was actually
he
really
could
good
take
on
a
We don't
drinking...
believe him because he lies so much. No one
But he
believes
also-
anything.
Take what he does.
That's the problem.
What he did in that hurricane relief is what's important. And what he did was ensure that every federal agency was fully engaged in helping those people, and then that he was giving attention to it on a personal level. But folks, look, there's so much Trump hate out here that if he took a drinking straw and sucked out every drop of flood water from Houston and spit it into the Gulf of Mexico, they would have said he should have spit it into the Indian Ocean.
I have to say to you, I have to say this to you. This is a gentleman who is now going to learn the cost of cutting all of these programs. Because these are the programs that we needed, and this is why we needed them. So he'll learn, he'll figure it out, because that's what every president does, right? That's what every president does. They figure it out. But I think he has not done himself a whole lot of good with some of the things he decided to do and how he started all of this. I think that is a lot of what's happening.
I actually think that's a great point that I agree with you. He's not looking to better himself. He's making decisions that I think better the American people. By making government... making government work more effectively and more efficiently and using resources in a more responsible manner, I don't think that's something that we should... and no taxpayer dollars. That should be looked at in a more...
We're gonna go and come right back, and we're not. They're coming.
The torture continues.
We'll be right back.
The torture continues.
The View is back with the hottest topics around. And the lineup for September.
It's going to be huge.
We're talking Larry David, Mika and Joe, Terrence Howard, Sofia Vergara, James Franco, Elizabeth Moss, Maggie Gyllenhaal, 50 Cent, Kiefer Sutherland, Adam Scott and Craig Robinson. Epic performances by Toby Keith, Little Big Town. Plus, our house is getting a little fuller. And then, get your acts together for this. One Hollywood reunion that's never, ever been done before. Are you kidding me? And it could be habit forming. Can I get an amen? Amen. Oh yeah, people. The View is...
I've been on here with her. Hey, it's official. Sarah's decided to stay with us.
Well, not me, this one.
Two Sarahs. Go, Jed.
Mike, I hear you have a new show.
I do.
Which I'm really excited about. It's called Huckabee.
How
which is
original.
Really,
What a
tell us about it. What's it about?
Well, it's going to be a show. We'll base it in Nashville, Tennessee. It'll be similar to the show that I did on the Fox News channel. Whoopi was one of my guests on there.
This one's
Had
on
a delightful
TBN.
time. It'll be on TBN, Trinity Broadcasting Network. It'll be same time that my other show is on Saturday nights and Sunday nights at 8. Here's what's going to be different about it. It is going to be, well, we'll have some politics, but it's going to be about vertical politics, not horizontal. Here's what I mean by that. Even the discussion at this table is all horizontal. Left, right, liberal, conservative, Democrat, Republican. Yes. I think we ought to be talking about what are the solutions. When it's health care, when it's infrastructure, not who's left, who's right, but who's up, who's down. How do we fix things, not just the yaya? So this is not going to be a show where people are talking over each other and screaming and yelling. I'll have a lot of people who are way left of me on the show, but I'm going to let them answer the questions. I'm going to let them talk. But I want to ask them, how do you and I get together where we figure out what health care ought to look like? And we're going to have a lot of music and a lot of fun.
Well, we've been asking some very tough questions, but this is one you may not be able to answer. What were you thinking when President Trump looked directly into the eclipse?
You got 30 seconds.
Go.
And there we have it.
Maybe he has superpowers we don't know about. I don't know.
Thank you to Sarah Sanders and Mike Huckabee, whose new show Huckabee debuts October 7th on TBN. Check your local listings for time. We will be right back.
I knew I'd get the last. Tomorrow, the Emmy-nominated star of The Handmaid's Tale, Elizabeth Moss, on why it's a tale for our times. And the buzzed-about obsession, Outlander is back. Sam Heughan and Katrina Balfe talk about the future of TV's romance for the ages.
Thanks for coming, because it was really meaningful to have the conversation. We also want to tell y'all that next Wednesday, we're going to have Hillary Rodham Clinton on the 13th. We will be live on the news. We'll ask her millions of questions that people want to know. We want to say thank you for coming. Thank y'all for coming. We want you to have a great day and take a little time to enjoy the view.
I've been on air with her.
Hey, it's official. Sarah's decided to stay with us.
Not me, this one.
Two Sarahs. Go, Jed.
Mike, I hear you have a new show.
I do.
Which I'm really excited about. It's called Huckabee.
How
which is
original.
Really,
What a-
tell us about it. What's it about?
Well, it's going to be a show. We'll base it in Nashville, Tennessee. It'll be similar to the show that I did on the Fox News channel. Whoopi was one of my guests on there.
This one's
Had a
on
delightful
TBN.
time. It'll be on TBN, Trinity Broadcasting Network. It'll be same time that my other show is on Saturday nights and Sunday nights at 8. Here's what's going to be different about it. It is going to be, well, we'll have some politics, but it's going to be about vertical politics, not horizontal. Here's what I mean by that. Even the discussion at this table is all horizontal. Left, right, liberal, conservative, Democrat, Republican. You know, yes, yes, yeah. I think we ought to be talking about what are the solutions. When it's health care, when it's infrastructure, not who's left, who's right, but who's up, who's down. How do we fix things, not just the yaya? So this is not going to be a show where people are talking over each other and screaming and yelling. I'll have a lot of people who are way left of me on the show, but I'm going to let them answer the questions. I'm going to let them talk.